GKFX Prime presents the Market Analysis Webinar.
Hello traders and welcome to another video, another week in the markets. My name is Dima. We've got NFP behind us last week and now we are into another week, second week of August. And as ever, we are going to look at some more charts, some more setups for you. Hope you had a good trading week last week and made use of the setups that we had. Let's go over a few that we've got for this week and review some from last week as well that will be overlapping. And hope you, as ever, going to learn from this and going to benefit from the analysis and the outlook. So let's get going. Hope you're fired up for this week as well. Let's see what we've got in the markets. I picked out a few charts for you here and let's go through them. I'm going to start with the calendar as I always do, just to have a look at where the volatility could lie. So as always, made a little list of the economic calendar here, just a short version of it with the most important parts to pay attention to. Tuesday, not such a big day. We've got pound the pound, retail sales, and in Australia, consumer confidence. These are not major bits of news. They may interact with the market a little bit, but the main news for this week is Wednesday. On the dollar from America, we've got CPI numbers. On Thursday, there's a holiday on the yen, which you may need to be aware of, maybe a bit slower on yen pairs. We've got on the dollar PPI numbers, but again, less important in the big scheme of things. And on Friday is the other major one to pay attention to, which is the pound on the pound. From the UK, we have the GDP figure. So watch out for these two, Wednesday and Friday, and the others are more on the shorter term side in terms of how it'll affect possible trades or any setups you're looking at. So let's have a look at what we've got for this week. Do we have some interesting looking setups? Let's have a look, and I'm going to start with the major forex pairs. As always, I've got euro dollar this week. So let's have a look what we've got on the euro. So let's have a look at last week and the week before. Did mark out this zone here. We had this level and this level marked out, expecting the market to go into that level and possibly reject from there. We can see early last week, we didn't quite hit this zone, but we did go into these levels and reject off it. You can see here, you can draw this possible trend line, but the main thing to notice, this structure low was broken right here, and we are now retraced this whole move down, which indicates that this could possibly be a swing high. Now I won't have that confirmation until obviously we break this low right here and this low right here and continue downwards. Now let me just delete all of these markings. It makes things a bit simpler. This is a bit cleaner. Right, so looking at this as a possible swing high right here, you can see that we've had this retracement from swing high to swing low, went deep into the retracement area right here, and then market reacted but did not break this low yet. So there's a possibility that this is a swing high, and in order for that to confirm, we're going to see a continuation downwards. So before seeing that continuation, I'm going to spot a high probability entry, which would be a retracement of this whole move that we saw last week, at the end of last week. And we've got a gap in the price here. I can even go down to the lower time frame on the 1 hour, and you can see this big gap in price where the market sold off from. So it has a probability of coming back to it. So this zone right here would be an area to look for a higher probability sell continuing to the downside. And the downside I'd be looking at next is this low right here, which would be significant. And of course, the major low, first major low here. If I go back to the 4 hour, this major low right here, and then the next low right there. And these are about, not very far, about 30 pips away from each other. But otherwise, we're still kind of stuck in this very big range you can see here. So not the highest probability trade, because we don't have a very strong single-sided clear picture in the market with this huge range, but still favoring slight downside probability in this case. So that's the euro, especially as with NFP. If you look at the dollar pairs and the dollar itself, I should say, closed bullish. Dollar itself was bullish last week. Looking at the weekly candles on the dollar pairs, and with that dollar bullishness after NFP, I'm going to look for that continuation bearishness on the pairs associated with the dollar. So in this case, I've picked euro dollar. Right, so that's the euro dollar. Let's go to another major pair. So we've got dollar CAD here. Let's have a look here what we've got last week. So here was that last week, NFP, and here were the markings, the annotations that I made last week. Let's go to the daily just to get a clear picture. 4 hour would be even better. So here's what we were looking at. We're looking at the market to draw even lower. It did not happen. It stayed within this first area right here and then rejected off and then broke these structures and created new highs. Very obvious to see all these structures being broken right here and then creating a new higher high. So I'm going to delete these markings. So now we've got this as a reference point. We've had this swing and we went higher. Now I'm looking for the market for that dollar strength to continue, at least in the short term. And we've got here this week that's opened, looking for a retracement of this. Let me just delete this one to avoid any confusion. Get rid of this fib. And now I'm looking at this whole move right here from high to low and looking for the retracement area, which is above the 50% and in the 78 and 61 area. So the idea here is the trading this retracement phase here of this whole down move. So where could we look for a better price? Well, the high probability would be down here somewhere. We had the move off away from this point right here. So I'm not looking for the market to breach this level. If it does, this whole thing collapses and no, it's not relevant anymore. We may get a deeper retracement down, but I'm going to look for an interesting point right here, perhaps a little bit lower, and then look for that reversal to continue to the upside. So that's the idea on dollar CAD here. Okay, now let's move to the next pair. Let's now go to another CAD pair, EURCAD. Now this one, I have to say, is a bit trickier. This is not a usual high probability setup that I personally would like to look at, but I'm going to look at it anyway. And let's just try to have a breakdown of this setup. You can see that the previous 4 weeks were in a range, and this whole down move down, this whole momentum down, we have kind of stalled right here. Looking at the monthly, if I zoom out, I can see that we do have a bit of a level here, which the market bounced from. So this is also the 1.3 whole number. So these whole numbers are significant. The market does like to interact with them. And we can see that here we've got this week and this wick right here, big rejection wicks off the level. Going to look at the lower time frame now on the daily. And what I can see here is that we had this rejection created these lows, and if you draw a trend line here, we had this break, we had this pullback back right down deep into the retracement, and then we had the move away, which the market shifted away. You can see this is Thursday from last week. So I'm looking for a bit of continuation here, possibly to the high of this range, and if not the high, first target would be this major high right here, which sticks out. So I'm seeing this bullishness as a sign that we have some bullishness in EURCAD. So now I'm going to look for that continuation of that bullishness. And on the lower time frame, you can see we have this big gap. Market moved very sharply away last week. So now I'm just going to have a look at the possible retracement and combined with a possible level, and here where the market moved away from. So round about here, 61.8, maybe a bit even deeper right here, and then continuation to this first target right here, and a possible second target here at the 1.33 level. Again, because it's in a range, because we're at this higher time frame rangey market for the last few weeks, this is not the highest probability trade. But if I was to look for an entry, remembering also that it's August, summer holidays, I think I mentioned that last week, so we may have more choppiness in the market, might be a bit slower. That's another factor to bear in mind. So yeah, just giving you this as an option, and at the moment, just letting you know that the probabilities are not as strong as other setups. That's the EURCAD here for you. Let's move on to the next one. Let's go to CAD Yen. Okay, CAD Yen here again. Not the easiest one to analyze, not the easiest one to see. On the weekly, if I zoom out here, what I'm looking at is I can see this level right here, this zone right here, and this level right here, where the market has interacted with, created these high, just pinged higher, went a little bit higher, left a wick there and rejected. And after it rejected, if I go to the daily, I can see that multiple structures have been broken. We've had this low being broken, we've had low being broken here, low being broken here, and indeed also here. So that indicates to me that the market has more downside. It's now breaking structures, and we have got a sell biases to the downside. Now, because there's so much bullishness to the upside overall on the weekly time frame, gonna be a bit more careful. However, I am going to look at the possibility to the downside, and the downside will look at obviously this first point as a target, and then afterwards these lows right here. Now, for that to be the case, again, I'm going to look for a nice expensive price and confirmation with that expensive price with a rejection to show that the market does want to follow my idea to the downside. If that doesn't happen, as always, I'm not taking the trade. I do want to see the market indicate what it wants to do. So if it does want to do what I am looking at, then the probabilities are in our favor. Again, no certainties, only probabilities. So here we have this swing high, this swing low, and again I'm going to look for a nice deep retracement, which we're having right now, to this level right here, and then I'll see the market interacting with this zone level. And then if I see that, I'm going to see the reversal to the downside. It's also possible, and even higher probability setup is to just wait for that reaction to the downside, break lows, and get a pullback entry, and then trade to the downside. That would be a safer entry. And if you want to get the best price, then it's up here. Obviously, if we breach this level, this swing high, then this whole thing is invalidated. I'm not looking at this setup anymore. So that's the CAD Yen. let's see how it works out. Might need to wait a little bit for that to happen, maybe a few days for the market to play out. So let's see how it goes on that. Okay, that's the CAD yen. Now let's move on to another minor pair. We've got the pound Aussie here. Okay, pound Aussie again looks a bit tricky here, doesn't it? Another ranging pair. We've got many weeks of a range here. In fact, if we go to the monthly, 4 months of a range. So, tricky one, this one. Question is, where is it going to go? So I did point out that I like this level here, and since the market has struggled to move higher, to push to the upside after bouncing off this level, that indicates that it may want to come back down. It's a kind of dead cat bounce scenario. Now, if I look at last week, what did I project last week? I was looking at this zone and possible rejection, which did not happen. The market went higher, it really broke very, very much higher, really made that move, and it broke this structure high. The thing is that when it did break that, it moved higher, and this whole move looks like a fake out, because as soon as it broke out, it broke back down, and not only did it break back down, it broke these structure lows right here and moved lower. It did not continue to the upside, which indicates to me that this is a higher probability fake out. And if I delete this line here, just go to the daily a second, you can see that it popped here higher and then came right back down, leaving these wicks. So let me just delete this, if I can do that. Delete these previous markings, they're not relevant anymore, and this is not relevant anymore. Okay, now we can see on the daily we're breaking down, creating new lows and heading lower. On the 4 hour, this could be a possible swing high right here, which we're now creating, and looking for that continuation to the downside. Now, there's two possibilities that I see here. I do like nice deeper retracements to give a nice more expensive price. So if the market does change its mind and begin to range and come into this level, that'll be a definite high probability sell scenario. And if it doesn't, then a breakdown lower, break of this low, further breakdown, and then a pullback to a level or a interesting zone, and then that pullback would mean that this is indeed a significant high, and then I'll be using that as a reference point. You can again pull a fib or use your levels or zones as places of high probability and use a nice deep retracement to enter, and that will be a possible scenario for the short, for the sell. So may want to have a few more confirmations, particularly as we've got a ranging market here. However, you can see again, if you wanted to draw a trend line, you could, but the main point to note is we've got these structures broken, this one broken right here, and this one broken right here. And now the market does not show any willingness to move to the upside. Yeah, so the bias here is tending towards the sell. However, bearing in mind we're in this large range, again, August, again, factors of, we don't know where the market is going at the moment, slow. So let's see where it goes. And remembering, got the pound news this week, a bit of Aussie news. So price action will form with that, and we'll be able to see where it's going. Right, so that's the pound Aussie. Okay, now I'm going to move on to gold. Gold, as you can see, and you can probably remember if you were with me last week and probably the week before that, I think. Looked at gold, looked at these two zones here. First zone looked at was this one, had a rejection here, pin bar on the daily, but there was no follow through. The market then ripped higher. Still, this was the second zone I was looking at, and there was no price action reversal here. We had what looked like a double bars here, but that wasn't the case because we left, I should say, left a wick right here. So there's still more downside potential to reach this area. Now, when the market does reach this area, if it does, then I'm going to see what's going to happen. And then I'll look to enter on any confirmations, any price action. If I look on the 4 hour, I've got this sort of market is going in this trend or channel, if you like, and definitely would like the market to break that with conviction, with momentum, breaking lows, definitely this low as well, to confirm the downside potential. So I'll delete this and this, just get rid of what we don't need. Okay, so we'll look for that breakdown, nice breakdown, and then again a pullback to a nice better price, retracement, and back down to this low right here. So that's be a nice risk to reward trade if it works out. The first target can be this zone level right here, which you can see, and then we'll see what happens from there. So still keeping with the same outlook, have to be patient on this one on gold, because at the moment you can see previous weeks have been bullish, bullish, bullish. And when it reaches this area, this zone, I don't know if it's going to blast through that and come up to take out these highs, or if it will reject and come and continue this downside with these lower lows and continue on this trend of bigger idea of these lower lows. And if you want, you can draw a channel. I'm just going to make it obvious so you can see it in front of your eyes. These lower lows, lower highs, and that's going to make another lower high on the weekly time frame. Paying attention to the higher time frame here. Yeah, so here we go. That's channel possible. We've got a trend line here, or channel, whatever you like to call it. So it could be a few confluences here, confirmations with this this idea, this sort of zone. So gonna have to really wait and see what happens here. Again, we've got dollar news may affect, may work with the market here in this case. So let's see how it goes. Do want a bit more price action here, that's what I'm saying. More confirmation, more sign. Don't want to assume the reversal, want to see that the market plays out. Okay, that's gold for you. And okay, last but not least, let's go to oil, an old favorite as last week. Right, what do we see? Well, last week we had a breakdown on oil. So had these lows taken out, this low taken out right here, and headed lower. If I look on the weekly time frame, I could see a zone right here, which the market may draw into before any possible reversals. So again, I can look at the monthly, it's very obvious we're getting bearish months. And now I'll be looking at the market to head into this zone right here before any possible reaction or end of this higher time frame pullback. And on the weekly, it's just lower lows, lower lows, lower lows and lower highs, as you can see right here with these points. I think you can spot them right here, and then here, high, lower high, here, lower high there. So last week closed very bearish, taking out this low, looking for that continuation of the bearishness down into this level, which is the 84, let's call it. Look on the 4 hour, I can see that we've got this high right here. Again, I'm going to draw a high to the low, have a fib and a nice deep retracement, which falls into this gap in the market and the zone. I'm going to look at this level, and just if you want a deeper pullback, and even better would be the 78 level right here. And this is where I look to see a reaction. So looking for that continuation sell, biases to the downside, and look for market to do its thing, react, and again start forming new lower highs, and new lower lows. And if you miss the optimal entry at the top, then you can always take the pullbacks. That will be higher probability situation in that case. Yep, so that is oil. That is the looking for the oil to drop as well. We've got the bullishness in the dollar, continuation from last week. So yeah, this kind of fits in with a possible bearishness on gold and on oil here. So look out for the news and have a look at which setups. As I mentioned already, some of these setups are not the most high probability or most favorable. I'm just pointing out to you possible scenarios and possible trade ideas. Always have to see how the market works out. And as I mentioned again, as always, manage your risk. Make sure that you are well within your parameters and take the best trades you can. Don't over leverage, don't over risk. Keep within your limits. These are the scenarios that I'm looking at for this week. Thanks again for joining me. Have a good trading week. My name is Dima, and thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you next week for some more setups if you're not on your holidays already, or you may be watching this later on. So comment down below if you have any questions, and if you have your own setups to share those, and I will see you next week for some more setups, more opportunities, and more market analysis. Hope this helps. Thank you, and talk to you then. All right, bye for now.